Welcome everybody, wonderful having your company, and thanks indeed for joining SA Decides. I'm standing in for Audrey Chimwanda. Now as we reach the halfway mark, SA Decides breaks away from the usual format and gets down to the business end of things. Now the nation's capital is one of the most important metros in the election, and as such the city of Tshwane will be closely watched in the upcoming local government elections. We'll be speaking with the mayoral candidates for some of the parties that will be contesting the metro. And joining us now are representatives from three parties. Solim Simang from Tshwane, he's the Tshwane DA mayoral candidate. Derek Kisundum and ACDP mayoral candidate, and Jackie Soroke is the mayoral candidate for the PAC. To all of you gentlemen, thanks indeed for your time. Perhaps just looking at currently the city of Tshwane, of course it's a very national interest key point, and what the DA is looking to do differently there. We'll give you the honor of opening up this debate.
Well, thank you very much. What we're looking to do is to change the image of South Africa through its capital city. The capital city is, gives a platform to how the world sees you, because you have the biggest concentration of embassies, you have the biggest concentrations of learning institutions in Tshwane. But we having the worst run finances in Tshwane. The government is actually the second worst run when it comes to finances in our city. So we want to ensure that that is something that is changed, that is something that we will ensure that we attract investment, but not only attract investment, but we can actually give the people of Tshwane the services that they deserve.
Maybe you can explain what worst run in finances means. Does this mean that it's the audits are not clean, that there are certain areas that you've identified that are above the norm?
Well, you're talking about, number one, spending more than 1.8 billion rand in wasteful and fruitless expenditure, 1.8 billion rand of your total budget. It's quite a lot of money. And this is second after Nelson Mandela Bay, which has also now got the highest. But we are saying you're spending more than 5% of your total budget on wasteful expenditure. That cannot be when you're having so much infrastructure backlog, when you're having so much housing backlog that needs to be dealt with. We are saying that the city cannot continue to run as it's running right now, and we need to ensure that the money that is there is actually taken to good use.
All right, let's get a view from Mr. Kisundum from the ACDP. This is a multi-party representation in all the metros as it currently stands, but of course the majority being the ANC. So if we're saying that Tshwane specifically, the finances are not run adequately, where are all the other parties when certain financial decisions are made? Or is this clandestine? It happens on the side?
No, thank you for that opportunity for this evening, and thank you to all the viewers who are listening to us. I think the first thing we must prioritize is the fear of God, is beginning of wisdom, and if we can bring that into our finances, that will be a very big plus. I suggest that presently in the city of Tshwane, yes, we have a fantastic big rollover budgets, and budgets that are one of the biggest in the country. However, the management of these finances are very prudent. We need to look at that more seriously and how we do it. Especially, I would like to say, on the tender processes, it should be open and transparent for all the community members to see and get involved in. I think that's one of our weaknesses at the present moment, that we do have a tender process, but it's not totally transparent for the people. I know we're going live, and the intention is to make it transparent. And we're hoping that if that is transparent, that will be one of the ways that we will better the system and go forward. Yes, on the financial side, yes, we did get audit. We didn't get clean audits yet. We had unqualified audits, sorry. However, that's not good enough, because the audit system only looks at a small portion of your audit, and that doesn't give you a full audit. If I become the mayor, I will take much more serious interest in the auditing. Internal auditing must be strengthened, which is not very strong in the city of Tshwane. And therefore, if our audit is done properly, and then we get clean audits, and when our finances that are used properly, will materialize and will be a better for the community of the city of Tshwane.
Reseroke, just from the PAC's perspective, I mean, there's no honor in saying that everything is absolutely atrocious in Tshwane. Nothing is working. The finance are up to no good, etc. What is it, in your view, that is working that the PAC could improve on?
There has been serious attempts at transformation of the special representation of people in Tshwane. And I think there has also been, related to that, the quest to unite the various population groups in Tshwane. And there has also been an attempt to address major infrastructure issues like the transport system, the affordable transport system for all the residents of the city of Tshwane. However, the critical problem has always been inadequate management of the systems. Issues of corruption, decision making that is very questionable, particularly when it comes to the use of finances in the city done by the ruling party. And all of this needs to be addressed to improve the condition in the city of Tshwane.
But Mr. Msimang, as the DA, and I can hear you collectively saying that there's something, the systems or the processes are flawed, but these seems more like internal party politics that you would do on a day-to-day basis on how you interact with the various representatives. For the end user, when you go on the new launched People's Train, we were there with Minister Dipuo Peters and stopped off in Atteridgeville. The whole place is just a Wi-Fi hotspot, you know, and people are very excited about it. The trains, obviously, it's going to be a process in rolling them out. People are excited about it. There's a sense of integration, or that there is good work at play. And here you highlight and you say this and that is wrong. From an end user's point of view, we don't know your processes, and I'm not even sure if voters necessarily care. It's about the experience of a better quality of life.
Look, I think the voters should actually care, because let's take example, the same Wi-Fi that you're talking about. What voters should be asking is how much is it costing per megabyte versus what it would have cost me if I was to walk into a shop and buy a data bundle.
This is free Wi-Fi I'm talking about.
No, I know that. But you see, this is the problem about how government is run. We've made some strides, but if money was used prudently, we would have been 10 times ahead of where we are right now. So it's not an issue of what is being delivered, but it's at what cost is it being delivered at. So to the end user, it might be free of charge. But then, you know, if we were using money prudently, we would have still be able to give free Wi-Fi, but still be able to ensure that the people of Temba are getting clean water. As it stands, people of Temba are getting water that has sewage particles inside. Because we don't have the proper management on site, we don't have enough equipment to deal with the purification of water on site. So we are saying things that should be receiving attention are not receiving attention because we are channeling money to where it's not supposed to be going, or we are channeling more money to projects that are already being channeled.
So when you refer to wasteful
let me give you a typical example. Another typical
Mr.
example.
Msimang, when you talk about wasteful expenditure, you're saying that it's not necessarily money that has just gone up in smoke. It's not traceable. This is money that has gone specifically for Wi-Fi or things that you don't deem as a priority over clean water. Is that what you're referring to?
What we are saying is that you can have any number of projects that you want to have, but ensure that you get the best out of the money that you're spending. Let me give you a typical example. In Atteridgeville, they built RDP houses. RDP houses costing 850,000 a unit. Now, you can go to the east in Garsfontein or in Faridland, and you can go and buy a townhouse for that amount of money. But you go and build RDP houses and say they cost more than 800,000 a unit, and even after that, you cannot even get people to occupy those because they've been deemed unsafe for occupation. So, you know, it's a number of examples that I can give you of where money has been channeled, and more money than what is actually needed for a particular project has been channeled in those, and this is where we are saying corruption is robbing our people. Imagine 800,000, how many houses could have been built with 800,000 that went only to one unit?
All right, so let's take a look at other issues around the country. Now, rural community in Limpopo have been without electricity for years, and there's fears they will not meet the June deadline by Eskom after their local chief is demanding 1,500 rand from each household. And most of these are poor households and cannot pay the amount.
77-year-old Miriam Patla lives alone in her shack in the Mzombane village in Mokopane, Limpopo province. She uses fire for all her heating needs. The only thing standing between her and electricity is a 1,550 rand fee.
Life is difficult here. The major issue is that as older citizens, we get raped because of the darkness. It is also difficult that our children can't even study. They use candles. And for us, life is really difficult because we don't have houses. We have to buy water and paraffin to cook.
Her sentiments are echoed by most of her neighbors. The chief is demanding that amount from every household to allow Eskom to bring electricity to the village.
Khoshi, our chief, Khoshi Kekana LV, is looking for 1,550 per household. And then we are more than 3,000 houses, so we can't afford it. We don't have that money. And then, for what? That's our question, for what? Because he's getting paid from the government almost every month. Even our mining companies are paying him. Actually, before the elections, something must be done by the community. If they don't deliver, and then we act as the community, yes. We have N11 here, which is National Road to Botswana. And they are mining the minings here, so which means we're going to close this N11 so that they can listen to us.
Residents are worried that the impasse will cause them to miss the deadline given by Eskom.
Today marks D-Day for an agreement to be reached between the community and the tribal authority. It is residents such as Gogo Miriam, as well as many like her, that will suffer the most. The tribal authority was not available to deny or confirm the allegations made against them. With winter approaching, the community of Mzombana languishes in the dark. Lemogang Foge reporting for SA Decides, Mokopane.
Lemogang joins us now live from Limpopo in Mokopane. Lemogang, thanks so much for joining us. Just looking at this deadline of households having to pay 1,500 rand, otherwise they will have no access to power. What's the current situation? I mean, having spoken to the authorities as well and the deadline that is looming, what is the sense amongst the community in terms of what they will do next?
Good evening, Cindy. Well, today we are in Mzombane, a village in Mogalakwena municipality, and ever since its establishment, there hasn't been electricity in this village, and the municipality then reached out to Eskom for them to step in and assist with this electricity issue. However, a budget was allocated for this project, but it since has not started because of the dispute between the community and the tribal office. And we are here with the community now just to find out, what their thoughts are, since today was actually marked the last day that this project was said to take off. Mister, could you please tell us, how do you feel with today being the last day?
Actually, this is not good for us as community. We are very much angry and we are very much disappointed. So we need that 30 million rands. It's for us to electrify our village. So we request the government and whoever who can assist us on this regard. We are looking for the services, especially electricity, yes.
So we hear that there was a meeting yesterday that was meant to be held by the local tribal authority as well as the community. What happened in that meeting?
They didn't come. The chief, they said the chief was here, but he didn't come to the community. The community was waiting for him, so he didn't come. So till today, we are still waiting for our chief to approve the way leave of Eskom. So that's our frustration. Yes.
So moving forward, what does the community intend on doing? Seeing that they were promised electricity, and even today on the last day where the way leave was supposed to be signed, there's still nothing. Where does the community stand?
No, now as the community, we are very much angry And then we think we can't participate in this coming local elections, and then we will fight until we get our rights, because this is democracy. Yeah, so no one has the power, no one is above the law actually. Yes, so it's our right to have permanent services, yes.
We were unable to get a hold of the tribal authority, but as far as you know, what were the conditions of getting that way leave signed over to ESCOM?
I don't know. Actually, I'm not sure about the tribal office. So, but if you can go there and then maybe check with them, maybe they can answer. But what I know, I think our premier or the MEC of Coxstar, they have the powers to sign that document. If maybe our chief is demanding 1,550 rand, which is a lot of money to us, so I think our premier, Mr. Stanley Matabata, and Makoma Makurupecha is our MEC. They have the right to sign that way leave. Yes.
Well, that was the community very frustrated and angry, as they indicated, and asking for the government to step in, and hopefully they will have electricity soon. Back to you guys in studio, Cindy.
Much appreciated for that coverage. Thanks indeed, Lemohang. Now in studio, we're joined by Solim Simang. He's DA mayoral candidate for Tshwane. Derek Kisonduth is a ACDP mayoral candidate, and Rejeki Seroke is mayoral candidate for the PAC. Thanks indeed, gentlemen, for indulging us. Just let's go back to the Wi-Fi. You wanted to add on to this wonderful phenomenon being available to ordinary citizens in Tshwane. You say it's not such a good thing.
The idea is good. The motive is good, but when you use the word free Wi-Fi, it gets me worried, because we spend hundreds of millions of rands, and how can it be called free? It's Wi-Fi is good, it's modern technology which is good for the country and the city as a whole. It's a fantastic idea, but don't call it free, because it's not free. If you got a kid in university, would be sitting there and playing around with the laptop, there's not a problem. It's free to the kid, but the parent has already paid for it. Our rates and taxes are paying hundreds of millions. If you just do a rundown of what we spent in the last 3 years, it'll fascinate you. And in this year itself, 2016-27, over 100 million has been set aside
but
for
Wi-Fi. But free in the sense that to those who would ordinarily not have access to Wi-Fi or internet, we're talking about closing the digital divide and ensuring that access to information is there for everyone, including those that would not be able to buy data.
I would say Wi-Fi is good technology for the city and its community. Yes, good, but you cannot call it free. It's not free. If it's free, then you don't pay anything for it. However, in this case, we're paying hundreds of millions. The city itself is paying hundreds of millions for a good technology. Let's not put it aside. The Wi-Fi could help the community to find jobs, but also educational. In that sense, it's good. Okay. But it's not free.
I don't think we should debate the semantics. In reality, and in life, there's nothing that's for free. There's always a cost to something. But here we're talking about universal access of communication, which I think is an instance here where you have free Wi-Fi being made available to communities of the poor who really need to have access to communication freely without paying for it in advance. It depends how universal that is, how accessible it is to a wider community, and I think the first step has been made, and that's positive.
Look, I think also maybe just to add on to that is to say that we also need to look at what cost, and this is what I keep coming to. It's a great initiative. At what cost is it coming? Treasury, National Treasury, Provincial Treasury wrote to Sputla Ramokop and said, this is unaffordable. You need to relook at this. Number one. Number two, look at who is going to be rolling out. They wanted to sign an 18-year contract, multi-billion rand 18-year contract. One, they said that in the first 3 years they were going to pay something like 4.8 billion rand, and then after that pay something like 220 million rand per year that will escalate as inflation changes. Now, you're talking 18-year contract, number one. Number two, you're talking about giving a company that was only registered 6 months before it was awarded the contract. Number three, looking at the contract itself, it doesn't have any future proof, and you would know that technology becomes obsolete every other year. So now you are saying I'm going to give somebody an 18-year contract, but then I don't even care what is going to happen in 2 or 3 years' time. And this is why you're going to end up having a situation like we had with Peu, where you're giving somebody a lot of money, you're not going to get your money's worth, and at the end of the day, you're sitting with a serious financial problem.
But Resiroke, and the nature of politics is such that there can only be one ultimate winner. Everybody wants to score the glory goal and be in absolute power. There is room here for a coalition, or even, especially at municipal level, where there's multi-party involvement and representatives, that when these transactions are being made, you have the opportunity to object. You have the opportunity to make to be vociferous to a point where we don't end up with wasteful expenditure, as opposed to always wanting to chase the crown or the throne, as it were.
Yeah, the proportional representation system in a plural political system that we have in South Africa, I think it is adequate to allow parties to participate in elections and have a piece of action in the decision-making process. And I think that's the good thing about the democracy we have in South Africa. The advantage of that too is that at the local government level, it is possible for parties to be kingmakers in a coalition, to be able to swing the vote, particularly where a mayor is going to be elected by members of by councillors, and I think that's a great thing.
I could add to that. The best-run municipality at present in the country is the municipality of Swellendam, which is co-run by the DA and the ACDP. The Auditor General said that is the best-run municipality in the country at the present. So it can work. Coalition governments can work. Same with the city of Cape Town. Initially, the mayor and the deputy mayor was DA and ACDP, and it has proven that it has worked, and it still can work further. I think there is room in South Africa for parties to join forces and work together for the common good of the community, and to bring out the best in each community. Thank
All right,
you.
let's go to the breadth and the width of the country, looking at other challenges for facing eligible voters. Now, a public school in Ulundi in KwaZulu-Natal has become the pride and joy of the town and is one of the top performing schools in the province. Masibumbane Secondary School compares has established a culture of academic excellence, and our SA Decides team spent some time there.
Masibumbane Secondary School is a public school in Ulundi, KwaZulu-Natal. The school compares well with private elite schools and is one of the best performing schools in the province.
We are just an ordinary high school which is catered for in the South African Schools Act, like all other high schools. The only difference is that we are a boarding school. The weapon that we use is the use of parents. We involve parents in our education, because we've just realized that the involvement of parents help.
The school's matric pass rate is among some of the highest in the province, and its students are among the best performers.
We had an opportunity of becoming recognized by certain programs in the Republic of South Africa, like Dinner Lady program, and we've been sponsored by different organizations and different departments.
The school is a Dinner Lady school, meaning it receives funding and support from the Department of Education to improve its maths and science scores.
We are lucky enough to have learners that we are having here at Masibumbane. Some of them are coming from good schools, so whenever and whatever we teach them, they understand it very well. That's why the performance of the school is still up there, and then we are still recognized as one of the best schools at our circuit, our region, and even in the province. So we hope the best even this year to perform very well.
The students understand the culture of excellence and hope to emulate the achievements of those before them.
I became #1 for the whole South Africa. Then I got this check from the principal as an acknowledgement for my work that I've done, which is sort of inspiring to other learners.
We try to help all those who are far left behind, so we can uplift the school's name, not just for ourselves personally, but for the image of Ulundi, since we are known as to be a rural school.
The Masibumbane school is a feather in the cap of the provincial education department.
But Masibumbane is one of the 6 Ondini schools that got 80% and above. So this is one of our best schools in the area. And as the Department of Education, KZN, we assist the school with the norms and standards. Section 21, of course. So when we give them the norms and standards allocation, they are then able to maintain their school.
The Council and Education Department are working closely with local schools to monitor performance, ensuring sustainable results. The relationship is based on a strong shared moral purpose, which focuses on maintaining the exceptional educational outcomes at all schools, intolerant of failure. For NN7, I am Lungani Mnguni, Ulundi, KwaZulu-Natal.
Lungani joins us now for the latest update in Ulundi, talking about Masibumbane school, a low-tier school, not very well resourced as you can see, but there's just something magical. What is the X factor about the school, Lungani? What makes it work so well?
Good evening, Cindy, and a very good evening to our viewers at home. Cindy, the results here at the school are very exceptional. Having to hear from the kids themselves, telling you how eager they are to carry on the tradition of acquiring more than 80% pass rates. It goes to show that students here at this school have cut the pattern of the tradition of the school by producing exceptional matric results. But not only that, also as from grassroots level, as one of the learners said, they do assist those also at the grassroots grade 8 levels just to perform as good as they are here at their school.
Lungani, how do we replicate this just to give young people, it's Youth Month and there's so many who are despondent and are feeling helpless and not interested in making anything of their lives? How do we replicate this model just to inspire young people and, to highlight the importance of education?
Well, Cindy, it's very easy. Like the learners are saying themselves, that all that is required is for you as a learner to have an objective and a goal. Set yourself goals, saying, okay, I want to be a doctor one day. This is how I must do. I should ask the people before me and as to how they are able to do such good at school level. So basically, it's very easy. It's for the learner to have a set goal for themselves in the education sphere.
All right, thanks so much, Lungani. Just before we take a break, just to get responses from our panelists here, looking at why there isn't greater collisions rather, and making government work as opposed to having one party always dominate. Do you think there's room for that?
There is definitely room for that, but one of the things that we have said as the DA is that we will not go into any kind of partnership if it means that we are going to compromise on our value proposition, number one. Number two is that we are not going to go into a partnership with anybody whose interest is just self-seeking instead of working for the greater good. We have worked, as Councillor Kisimbuth had said, with partners before who understand that we are not there for ourselves, we are not there to serve ourselves, but we're there to serve the community. And we're willing to work with anybody who's got that in mind.
Okay, coalitions going forward, you're unlikely to win Tshwane.
We are likely to win Tshwane. I think that's one of if you look at the latest stats, I think we're very, very positive that Tshwane would probably change government hands in the next up and coming elections on the 5th of August. We probably would see a new controlling running of the municipality in Tshwane. I think the likelihood would be very good with the ACDP and the DA joining forces, and maybe a few other smaller parties that will take control of the city of Tshwane. And yes, given the opportunity, major changes will take place. We were just talking about the Pew matter with the electricity. That concept was my concept that I brought to the city of Tshwane. Unfortunately, it was stolen from me and given out. It was a fantastic concept. I did a lot of research for that. I worked in the finance division, and I saw there was a major problem of writing off bad debts. And I went out and had researched, and I brought a concept, and I spoke to the mayor and showed him that Tshwane would not need to borrow money again if they use the concept of the smart prepaid meters properly, both for water and electricity. However, the concept was taken away, given to another company called Pew, which was now cancelled. The tender has been cancelled. We have paid in excess of 2.6 billion rand and a further maybe another 900 million for 12,900 meters when the city needed over 800,000 meters. So those are the things that are troubling and worrying, where the method and the concept is perfect. If they did it properly, Swanee will be running debt-free in the future. However, it's issues that when you give the concept in, the matter is taken away, given to companies and negotiated and cancelled, and yet the company that has got the contract gets in excess of 2.8 billion, which I would say if I had done the project, it would be in about 200 million max for the same amount.
We'll come back to that. We just want to give Resiroke any chances as a political survival for the PAC to have a coalition, because the chances of you winning Tshwane convincingly, are there even chances?
Look, you never know what would come out of the elections, but the electorate has an important voice, and we are giving the electorate a choice to choose from several organizations with distinct voices. The strength of a democracy is to have these various voices and also to express opinion that may not be popular now, but which may be holding elements of truth for the future and for the better of our country. I think that the democratic system we have in South Africa allows for coalition where coalitions are necessary, especially where we have common points and have principled unity and agree on certain points. And coalition can also be used to maintain the system of democracy itself, because then you don't have the dominant political parties dominating smaller groupings out of existence. We've seen this, we have an experience, and we have seen some, particularly in several municipalities, where the position, for instance, of Scopa, is given to political parties that could be used as lapdogs. And this is not right. That position belongs to strong opposition.
All right. Just after this insert, maybe you can just ponder on the question of how you will improve education or inspire more young people to complete education when we come back from this insert. Now we move on to the Western Cape town of Doornbay. The Matikama municipality has initiated an abalone farming project to absorb its unemployed. The abalone project is expected to take the pressure off the agricultural sector, which has been the mainstay of the community, but the recent drought has had a devastating impact on the local economy. At the moment, just 43 people have been employed in the pilot project, but when launched, it is expected to employ at least 2,000 people. The farm is expected to grow the GDP of the town by 15% in a few years. And Nasipi Same is with us in Doornbay. Nasipi, thanks so much for joining us. What's the latest improvement there in terms of the number of jobs created in this particular project?
Good evening to you, Cindy, and the viewers at home. We are back in the Matikana municipality, where this area, Fredendal, was faced with challenges of unemployment and lack of skills, but the municipality was doing something with the youth to put up programs to equip them with skills and provide employment for them. I am now joined by Mr. Lionel Phillips, who will be telling us more about what the municipality is doing with the Durance Trust Abalone Farm. Mr. Phillips, can you please tell us what the municipality is doing in order to, what participation is the municipality doing with the Durance Bay Trust on the abalone farming?
Okay. Thank you. The municipality is driving this whole local economic development intervention, of which the Doornbay Abalone Farm is a big part of. And the reason why we're doing that is we realized that we needed to do something to change the poverty and the unemployment in our municipal area. And we embarked on this particular strategy, which is to develop the aquaculture sector on the coastline of Matikama, because we know, based on a number of researches and surveys that we've done with the help of the Western Cape Aquaculture Development Initiative and with the aquaculture sector, the industry, we've established that we have huge potential to develop aquaculture, and in particular abalone farms on the West Coast. So from the outset, the Matikama municipality was the driver of this process, and along with the Doornbay Development Trust, which is the community trust in Doornbay representing all the communities in Doornbay, and with the Doornbay Abalone Company, we managed to put the first pilot project together, which is the Doornbay Abalone Farm, and we are now have enough reason to believe and confident enough that we can roll this project out to actually take up all the space that is available for abalone farms in the Doring Bay area.
You're saying that it's a project that is ongoing. After the project is complete, which will be in 4 farms you mentioned earlier on, how many people will it employ and how many people have been employed from Doring Bay?
That is exactly one of the reasons why the Council of Matikama embarked on this particular project, is because of the huge employment opportunities and empowerment opportunities it has. For example, if we are able to put this project together, which is the 4 abalone or 5 abalone farms with a total capacity of just over 1,000 tons. And I must say, on our own as a municipality, we won't be able to do that. We need the support of provincial government, of national government, and the private sector to do that. But if we manage to pull that together over the next 5 or 6 years, we were able to create for every 1 ton of abalone, 1 job on the farm, which is about 1,000 jobs then, if we have a 1,000 ton of production, and another at least 1 job in the value chain, which is the processing and value adding of, to the abalone that we will be farmed with here. So this project is very important for the municipality, and we need to roll it out as a matter of urgency. We need to put all our efforts, our focus on this project so that we can address the poverty and the needs of the local communities of Matikama and the areas around Matikama.
Thank you so much. That was the Director of Development and Town Planning of Matikama, who has said that they are planning to expand the abalone farming business project, where they will be employing more people, and they're looking to employ more people under the Matikama municipality, especially the people who are unemployed. That is all from Miss Cindy. Back to you in studio.
Much appreciated. Thanks indeed, Nasipi Same, reporting live from Dorings Bay in the Western Cape. Now moving on to Plettenberg Bay, still in the Western Cape, residents of Kolweni, an informal settlement, are facing the brunt of housing projects that have rocked the community. At Bitao in Plettenberg has been plagued by violent housing protests of late. Disgruntled members of the community demolished several housing units earlier this year. The situation is dire for countless residents, with many having been on the housing list for years.
Housing conflicts are commonplace in the Bitu local municipality. Earlier this year, a housing protest turned violent and RDP houses were destroyed. This time, residents in Kolweni are complaining about being moved to one location and then moved back again.
Because I am not happy because when we are being moved, our furniture gets ruined, and we have not only been moved once. We were moved from Kolweni to Marikana and were told that the municipality wants to build roads. And then moved back to Kolweni, promised we'd get housed. But when we arrived here, it was just bungalows.
But the community services say there is a valid reason for moving the residents.
When developing in an informal settlement, it's unlike when you are doing in a greenfield area. People must be moved from where we are going to develop. So the agreement is that we will move people to temporary relocation areas. In those areas, we provide them with temporary shelter, water, sanitation, electricity, and the like, and all the services of the municipality they get. We then move them back to houses as they qualify in terms of the national criteria.
Some of the problems with housing stems from confusion regarding who qualifies and what is the criteria.
Our problem as residents is that we were told to apply for houses by the municipality. I applied in 2007 for a house while still living in Kwanuktula, and I was approved in 2010. When I go to the municipality, I am told that I will get a house. After a few years, I was told the houses are finished. But when they started rebuilding, I was told that only people who are 40 years and older get houses.
The residents of Kolweni, an informal settlement in Plettenberg Bay, have been battling housing and land allocation with the Buto local municipality for years. And they feel that the municipality does not address their grievances. I am Nasipi Same for SA Decides, Plettenberg Bay.
Thanks so much, Nasipi. Now, the South African Institute of Race Relations has launched a Comfort and Deprivation Index to measure the quality of life in all municipalities. The index shows that while there have been vast improvements in comfort levels across the board, municipalities can still do much more to improve the quality of lives of all South Africans.
The South African Institute of Race Relations has launched a Deprivation and Comfort Index that measures the quality of life in the country's different rural and urban municipalities.
And we focused on the most basic of services. So for deprivation, do you have access to water? Do you have education? And so very, very basic services. Do you have access to a toilet? For comfort, it was more of, do you have electricity for heating, which is sort of a luxury almost for most people. And then do you earn over 25,000 rand a month? So it was ultimately very sort of the basic levels of comfort and deprivation that we looked at. And we were very shocked by the number of municipalities that actually have very sort of high deprivation indexes. And I think the biggest sort of shocking factor that we found was that a lot of people live in municipalities where they don't have access to chemical and flush toilets.
Rapid urbanization has seen an increase in the number of informal settlements in mostly big metros. The study found that not enough is done to sustain the urban growth.
What we see there is not enough is done to sustain economic growth and urbanization. So in terms of what needs to be done from a government perspective almost, and how you run with the torch, that is what urbanization brings, you have to encourage policies that allow for economic development, that allow for investment in order to keep that economic growth going.
2016 is on course to record the highest number of service delivery protests ever. The sharp increase could be that people have much higher expectations from elected officials.
We have a vast number of people who have electricity and water in homes where they didn't before, and that you definitely cannot look askance at that. But at the same time, you've raised people's expectations, which is why we have so many protests and the like, because people now expect that from government. People now know that this is the norm. So we need to keep pushing to improve so that we can keep raising people's living conditions, so we can keep people living in the conditions they've now become accustomed to.
We continue our studio chat here on SA Decides with Mr. Solim Simang. He is the DA mayoral candidate for Tshwane. Derek Kisonduth is ACDP mayoral candidate, and Rejeki Seroke, a mayoral candidate for the PAC for the Metro. Thanks indeed, gentlemen, for staying with us. Just unpack some of the issues here. We were talking about schooling and that excellent example of a school that's working very well in KwaZulu, and how we can replicate that, particularly in peri-urban areas. I'll start with you, Seroke.
Yeah, I think that our campaign for local government emphasizes education. We think that if there's greater emphasis on education, particularly from they say the foundation of education starts at 4 years and 4 year pre-schooling. And we think that if there's a lot of focus on education at that level, the building that will lead to building up of skills in the communities, and skills that will allow people to run their organizations efficiently, would be more. So the quality of education that comes from the school compared to what is happening now, the schools are overcrowded, there's a lot of corruption, inactivity in those schools, and the results are not as good as they should be.
Mr. Kisandruth, we have an issue right now in terms of the survival of Afrikaans, and now especially with the preamble of the 40 years of youth, June 16, 1976, and how you accommodate the diversity of a society that comes from a bitter, broken past, and ensuring that there is inclusion of everybody, especially at schooling level.
Yes, thank you. First of all, education falls under the national government and provincial matter. It's not a local government issue. However, I will answer your question on Afrikaans just now. But just to say our input into education would be, firstly, is to get the municipality to invest more on the sporting facilities, to enhance sporting facilities where the kids could get together. Our most important drive is for basic skills in education, reading, writing, to get them going. And we will assist as a third tier of government to encourage that, number one. Number two is to get sporting activities where we will invest in the communities that will assist the schools to use that, give them proper coaching, and that will also enhance participation and coalition. And thirdly, coming back to the question you asked of Afrikaans. When I grew up, I didn't like Afrikaans, unfortunately, because it was pushed down our throats. It wasn't given as a choice. We had to pass English and Afrikaans to pass the standard that we were in school. However, I would say that you should be given a choice. Afrikaans should be one of the subjects that you are given a choice. If you like to study that language, go and do it. And people that have a fair mother tongue on Afrikaans should be given the opportunity in their rightful place to be studied.
But not if it encroaches on the access to education, particularly if the closest school to you in your radius is that it's an Afrikaans school. Shouldn't there then be duality in terms of the instruction?
Should be duality. I think in every institute should be English and the other subjects, other languages also. The best knowledge is when you start in your mother tongue would be an ideal situation for you to learn. Afrikaans is one of the 11 subjects that we have, and I think that should be given the similar sort of importance to all other languages. And if you so desire to be taught in Afrikaans, we should make it such that schools should be given that opportunity to be taught in both or more other languages also.
All right, just the final word. We're talking about levels of overspending and corruption in a sense. And you were saying like there is a case in front of the public protector currently regarding your intellectual property that had then been inappropriate, used by the Metro. And I'll come to you, Mr. Msimang, if you'll just give us indications of what the DA will do should you win Tshwane under your administration. What would be different?
Okay, just to give you a feedback on that situation, as I said earlier on, it was a matter that I looked at in the city of Tshwane. I serve in the finance committee, and one of our major problems were writing off of bad debts, and it's become so serious where hundreds of millions were written off. And I thought that this must come to a stop. We must put an end to bad debts. Not that we do not want to allow people that cannot afford to be written off. I'm first to say the very poor, the poorest of the poor, should be given a relief in that matter. However,
just very briefly, Mr. Kisundu, we're out of time.
Okay, coming back to where we were, I found a solution. And the solution was smart prepaid meters. Not the old dumb prepaid meter, but smart prepaid meters where you could control it from sitting in your office to cut off and add on. And that was one of the ideas I brought in, and I spoke to the city manager and the mayor for many times about this idea. He's even introduced me to various other committees which we presented these issues to, and they were very excited initially. However, they now taken that idea and given it to somebody else.
All right, we're going to also have to give the mayor a right of reply, but very briefly, yes. Mr. Msimang.
Okay, I think the mayor, it will be very interesting to come and hear what the mayor has to say on the number of matters that have been raised.
As I said, we have 30 seconds.
Right. One is that we want to give the people of Tshwane a clean government, a transparent government that does things with the consent of the residents. That's number one. We want to give our residents a safe environment. We want to give our residents a business-friendly environment, because that's how we will make sure that we keep the growing unemployment, but not only that, we will then start to progress as a people. And that is what we want to give the people of our city. And we are saying you have a choice, whether to continue suffering under the current government or to put somebody who will put you first and your needs first.
Gentlemen, I really appreciate it, and all the best, of course. Good luck, I suppose, is in order for your campaigns. Thanks indeed for your time.
Thank you.
On to other stories. Applications for voters to cast special votes in the 2016 municipal elections opened on Friday, and special votes are available for all registered voters who are unable to visit their voting station on election day. There are two types of special votes: home visits and special voting. And home visits are only available to voters who are disabled, infirm or pregnant, and the IEC officials would visit these voters at their homes to allow them to cast their ballot. And the special voting days are on the 1st of August and the 2nd between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. And the applications for special votes is available online via the Electoral Commission's website. And joining us now is Mr. Sai Mamabolo. He is the Deputy Chief Electoral Officer. Mr. Mamabolo, thanks so much for your time. But what is the application process for special votes, if you'll just give us the details?
Well, the special votes are made available to those South Africans who wish to participate, who are duly registered. However, they are available upon application. There are a number of ways in which the application can be made. The first, obviously, is through our website. For the first time, you can apply for this special vote online. Secondly, you can cause your application to be delivered to the office of the municipal electoral officer. And there's also a possibility to apply for a special vote through an SMS facility.
So how then do you ensure free and fair elections?
Free and fair elections has many aspects to it. There's free and fair elections in relation to the registration of voters. There's free and fair elections in relation to candidate nomination. There's free and fair elections in relation to voting and counting procedures. How do we ensure that? Is to be sure that our staff on voting day, they adhere to the regulations, they adhere to the law, and treat every party with fairness, so that the process itself is ultimately, manifestly fair for everybody. Secondly, we've got to ensure, together with other players, that the climate in which an election happened is conducive to free and fair election. And to that extent, we are working with ICASA, we are working with the security agencies to ensure that where there have been incidents of violence, those are eradicated, because it is our view as the Commission that violence it inhibits, it imperils a climate that is conducive to free and fair elections.
All right, thanks so much. Speaking to the Deputy Chief of the IEC, that's Mr. Saima Mabolo, giving us the lowdown. The first and the second, diarize this. These are the days for the special votes. If you haven't registered yet, you must go onto their website. Now, do stay with us. Coming back, we'll come back just after this story. ANC supporters in the northwest capital, Mahikeng, say they're unhappy with the final list of candidates submitted by the party to the IEC. They say the selection process was flawed because crowds of people were brought in to bolster the chances of people they believe do not deserve to be on the list.
Residents of Mahikeng in Ward 13 are unhappy with the ANC candidate list process. They are accusing some candidates of renting a crowd during the election process to make sure they make it on the final list.
What transpired there in my community next station 39, Ward 13, it's so sad for us because of within the processes of the ANC, we never thought or such things can happen. People are after state capture. It's a serious thing, this thing, because of they can manipulate the processes up to that point to make sure their ambitions are being sort of. We experienced a community meeting whereby people from other wards came there because of they were rented and promised money to come and deliver their processes to their advantage.
The residents also blame the current councillor for the poor service delivery.
From the date of myself being a councillor, April 2014.
From the day I became a councillor, I started on the 3rd of April 2014. This is my 19th month in office as a councillor of the ANC that was elected by the people. Therefore, I delivered pavements to the township. We have installed 4 street lights. In most cases, the people who start problems are the people who don't attend community meetings. They don't have the community togetherness at heart.
Approved as we are talking now.
Following a directive from Luthuli House, the party will not change any of the names on the list.
We went to ANC office, we written 3 dispute letters and they didn't respond until to date. Even at Nursing College, we also written a dispute for the matter that what councillor took one of our community member and appointed him as a CLO. It's not community who taking part of that, but that thing they say we must accept it. But we are still waiting for response from Speaker's office because we're written a dispute against that.
The residents of Extension 39 in Mahikeng are saying that they are not happy with their candidate councillor and have written an appeal to the ANC provincial office. Until this date, they have not received a response. I am Tsegofatso Lepile reporting for ANN7 in Mahikeng.
Coming back to the Deputy Chief of the IEC, Mr. Saima Mabolo, with regards to the violent protests that we've experienced in communities recently dissatisfied with the names put on the party list, what is the methodology or process regarding the candidate list from the IEC's point of view?
This year, for the first time, we introduced an additional modality for the submission of a list of candidates. previously, you could only submit at the office of the municipal electoral officer, hard copies. We introduced for the first time in this election an online facility. So political parties, independent candidates who wanted to submitted their list via the online facility that we have from our website. And we are happy that the uptake has been very good, because close to 57% of all candidates that were submitted, they were done through the online facility.
And do you anticipate any disruptions or violence during the elections, and how does the IEC mitigate this?
We don't think that communities will target the electoral process. We believe that we will put appropriate security measures to ensure that all communities can express their right to vote in a free and acceptable environment. Where there are issues for instance, the Vuwani situation, we hope that the processes that government has put in that community will result in some settlement being reached before the election.
Mr. Mayoral, just before we let you go, what is your message during Youth Month, especially on the importance of voting?
Our message is that in this Youth Month, we need to rekindle the spirit of those that came before us in 1976 by ensuring that we take democracy by the scrum of the neck, and we go register our political choices on the 3rd and shape the municipal future of our country.
Thanks indeed. We're speaking to Mr. Simon Mabolo, the Deputy Chief of the IEC, speaking to us just about the importance of voting and the various processes that you can exercise. But just before we leave, a quick reminder of our programming. ANN7's poll show is back after the hugely successful and accurate poll projections in the national elections in 2014. The poll pundits return for the municipal elections. With that, it's cheers for now. We'll see you again soon.
Days to go before municipal polls.
What are you going to do?
Who will win your vote?
That benefits the people of South Africa.
ANC losing ground.
And they come here and play politics with our lives, no?
Or holding firm.
If I have to talk about our achievements in this city, it will take almost a week.
Who's winning your municipality? All the answers on ANN7 starts 17 June at 5 p.m. and 7 p.m.